recording. Okay, so getting back to business. March 3rd, 2025, OSC Web Infrastructure Meeting. So we're here with Michael, Katarina, and myself. Let's do it. Michael, if you want to have an easier time on the video, you can. But yeah, just wanted to show your face. Let's do it. Okay, so take a look at that in the chat. I just want to take a few notes as normal. Where's that chat? Right there. Chat. Okay, so just notes for your reference, but that's an open doc. Looking at all the main infrastructure. So we can take some notes there if we want to. I'm going to take at least some notes there. But let's get on the same page. First of all, how's it going on the server? Like all this stuff. I mean, are you running into any major problems or anything like that? Or?
Yeah, so status update. I think there was like 10 websites. I think like 2 of them we decided not to migrate at all. Maybe another half of them we decided to turn to static sites because they just won't work on the recent versions of PHP or WordPress, whatever software they're running on. Of what remains, those are mostly migrated. I will still need you to do like a proper full validation. That'll be the next step, except for OVI and OSC main. Those 2 websites obviously respond, and hopefully we can figure out what to do with those in this meeting.
Okay. Yeah. So let me just start in on just a big overview of what all is happening here at OSC. So let's start with this. So we're ready to roll. Lots of delays over the last couple of years. So basically, last time we had major activities going on at OSC was already 2 years ago. When in the winter we built a house, started on a house in Maysville. Until then, it's been documentation and all the rigorous detail of the interior. So that's where we're at right now. House is days from being put on the market. We will update on that. There's some pictures here and there on the internet for those who have seen it. Lots of things have happened since then. So one thing that just for the whole community, just to review this, last year we got into a lawsuit. So a neighbor basically bulldozed our tree line, and we're still in the middle of that lawsuit where, due to complications, the county board got involved, and in fact it looks like there's going to be a precedent coming out for situations of similar nature out of this particular event. So that's in process. Other thing is my father died, so that just happened. He died last week. We're getting the ashes shipped next few days. We're going to bury him in Poland. There's in life there's death, and life in death there is life. So we move on in that, and that's been a tremendous learnings and all that. But
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. So that's delayed. Basically, we've been doing basically a very sudden thing that happened in November: brain tumor, brain glioblastoma, where basically the demise was brutal and rapid. But you can say, fortunately, it just happened over months as opposed to like a year or 2 of drawn out agony. So, but that's taken some time. I went home and took care of a lot of things, make sure my mom is okay, and there's a little bit of left, just a funeral in Poland left. But as far as everything else on the ground, I mean, the house, just getting back to the business, the house is, I mean, it's been a long journey over the last two years, but I mean, everything is there. It's a full product ready to be put on the market. So we've got the full CAD, we've got 16,000 pictures of the overall build, hundreds of pages of working documents in terms of the build detail, complete data collection for the exact number of hours it took to build this thing. It's around 1,500 hours at this point. It's rather high. Like the goal eventually is to get the house, each house that's a 1,300 square foot house, down to about 750 hours with a skilled crew, and that's where we're looking at the apprenticeship coming up right now. So a 24-person apprenticeship, and right now pretty much ready to roll on that. So basically, the announcement on the apprenticeship, the house is being put on the market in the next probably. Well, we got to do some staging inside of the house and take pictures and do the website. So that's where the website is relevant too. So let's talk about the critical infrastructure requirements, website requirements for what's going on. So on the one side, there is the apprenticeship part where it's effectively a recruiting site for people. I think we can probably, in minimal infrastructure mode, we can just post some of the announcements on the main website. We can possibly, well, there's a lot of stuff on the wiki about that, of course. The wiki remains our core organizing principle. That's in good hands. But then there's another thing, which is the house website for actual house sales. Now, on one side, we're going to go on Zillow and do for sale by owner as a way to do it. We might enlist some brokers, we don't know. But there are significant fees with getting a broker, so this is part of the business model, is to keep everything lean by doing the just publishing yourself. And I think we can do a really good job in terms of telling the story ourselves on a sales website, including the incremental housing part, all the unique features and where we're going with this whole thing, because a standard real estate website would not give justice to that and all that. So that's a definite need. So probably we're looking at a dedicated website, sales website. So
okay, sorry. You just mentioned a bit of an expansion of the scope of Hetzner 3's migration, which I wasn't aware of. You're talking about two different new websites, sales websites for the house and for the apprenticeship. Is that correct?
No, for the apprenticeship, I think. Let's all get on the same page here. So let's see where we are. So I think that for the apprenticeship, we can go with a website and wiki infrastructure that we have. We also have our listserv. We can put out announcements there as well. We still have our OSC Workshops Facebook page. That's a place where we post still. Those are the four main places. That can exist on infrastructure as is. Now, the two other things are more like OBI related and house related. So there's the OBI website right now, which I don't know, we'll discuss if we're going to retire that or what's going to happen with that. And then there's the dedicated sales website for a house. So before we freak out on that, there's different ways to do it. Like right now, for example, we can just put it on Zillow and call it a day, or even just use our existing websites. But eventually, we will need, I would say, a more dedicated presence where you have the house sales, including all the DIY features like here, design your own house, print out all your blueprints. Get all the bills of materials and parts list and instructions, and start actually collaborating on it. So that'd be like the greater, the more ambitious aspect of the building work. But
I do that it's better to always have like a dedicated website. Then you can control all the content. If the fees go up on the platform, Zillow, or whatever you're using, or they decide to do something that makes you have to leave, it's always better to have your own website. You do have the open source everything store, which was, I think you said that we could retire that site, but it was actually it's stored at opensourceecology.org. It was basically blank, so it was very easy to migrate. So it's actually something I am migrating. So you could just reuse the existing domain and that existing WordPress site and just build it, because there's nothing there now, and that could be this.
Yeah, that's and the domain. Can the domain of that So that's stored at opensourceecology.org.
Yeah, and that's already all set up. You could, of course, change the domain, but just to keep things simple, I would recommend sticking with subdomains.
Now, if we didn't want to use store, but use cdgohome.opensourceecology.org, is that, how much work does that take to just start messing around with the subdomain names? Is that trivial, or how much work does that?
It's not too much work. It's more of like a maintenance thing long term. I would try to reduce your footprint of domains if possible, unless you have a good. I guess it makes sense if you have two separate financial organizations to have two separate domains to keep them distinct, just like you keep the accounting distinct. But if you can keep them the same, if it's the same organization, just to keep future costs and maintenance requirements down, I would recommend sticking with a subdomain of something else.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about let's talk about so the three things to mainly discuss is, so there's the migration of the main website. Okay, that's a big deal. There's the website for the product itself. Let's maybe nail these two things first and see if we have any more time on that. So on the first one, on the migration of the main site. So that's a historical site. That's been around since what? When was the first article published? Was that like 2008? Is that it? First article. I remember Ronnie building an outhouse at Factory Farm. First article. Something's changed since then. But that's about 2008. We've got about almost 20 years of history on that website. Now, the one thing, we've migrated once already. We had the original website. Now we've got like V2 website, which is now way outdated. So now we're talking about V3. This is now modernizing our open source ecology.org, right? The issue that's happened before already, which is something we want to discuss about how we resolve it, is first of all, like a lot of the stuff when we went from HTTP to HTTPS on the main website, still a lot of the very old blog posts, a lot of them are simply not changed to the HTTPS. So when you click on some old link at some website or on a wiki or somewhere in the ether space, you might get a bad link. So one issue is how to fix that, and then as we go forward, make sure that all the blog posts transfer, and that's another decade of history for historical purposes, right? That we want to make sure all the links work. So let's maybe nail this, how we go about this. Katerina, I know you had some input on what to do here, because there's some controversy regarding. Katerina, you wanna take it from there regarding what the issue was on migrating?
Okay. Well, so there's two things happening at the same time. One is that we can no longer migrate the site as it is because the support is not there. It's too old. So to migrate it, we need to correct it. I know that Michael tried to put it on top of another theme because we cannot stay with the theme. Website for OAC that contains all the old content, but it's reorganized. So, Michael, what I was thinking, and I wanted to ask you if you agree with this, and if what we need to do to make it happen is use this migration to allow us to take what's on Hetzner 3, create the new website, basically migrate the website and then put a new theme on it so that we still get all the database content, and then I will go and adjust that to the new theme and add whatever we need to add.
Yeah, it'll be broken, but you can of course change it. Actually, so what I was going to recommend for both OBI and OSC main is we do two migrations, and it's a trivial amount of extra work for me to migrate a static site. So I guess you looked at Factory Farm, that website has the same sort of problem, so I just use curl to convert it into like an Internet Archive version of a static site. That looks the same. It's still functional as far as I can tell. I need you to verify all of that. But I can make OSC main and OBI migrate over so that they're actually functional. They look the same, but you can't edit them. And then also I can do, as you just said, where I migrate over and it's broken, but you can edit it. So what I was thinking I was going to recommend is that I do both. So I would migrate over the static site, which would keep everything as functional as it is now. Like if there's broken links now, there's going to be broken links on the static site too. But I can at least migrate over that'll preserve that content for historical, and then I can also migrate over the site as you're saying, but that one won't be publicly accessible. So you'll have like a sandbox that you can work with and improve it. And the reason I was asking about IPv6, I sent you an email asking you to try to ping something, your Hetzner server. IPv6. It didn't work from Factory Farm. The reason I was going to do that is because you have like 100 IP addresses on a new server for IPv6, but you only have one IPv4. because we don't support IPv6, I can run both websites on two separate IPv4 addresses. It costs €5 setup fee and then €2 per month. And then I can just as you edited the Etsy host file for verification of those sites on Hetzner 3, that would be how you would access the like broken sandbox WordPress version of these sites that you can update. And then when you're finished, you give me the green light, and all I have to do is change that. I disable the old site, the static site, and then the new site, I would just change the IP address over to be the live IP address, if that makes sense.
I think this is a great plan. That's the best plan. Yeah, that's perfect because it buys us time, so we still have our unbroken sites out there while we keep the copies of the add-ons that we can fix in the background. Yeah. So the only thing I would want to ask you then, like, well, I don't know if what you already migrated to Hetzner 3 is what is the sandbox I would be working on. If you need to do another migration, so that would be one question. And then I'm looking at a list of the most popular WordPress themes, and I was going to ask you if you could please install those for me, and I will try them, because I'm going to try and follow your advice of just using something that is very popular. But I would want more than one theme installed, because I don't know how they're going to interact with the content we already have, so it's better to have several options. Would that work?
Yes. Yeah, of course. Just let me know what things with enough advance notice. I'll install them. I also have been looking at my own organization, a lot of more modern WordPress themes. Are you familiar with full site editing, by the way?
No, what is it?
It's like a new paradigm of WordPress where you can edit sites completely. So it'd be better, more future-proof if that is an attribute. A full site editing compatible WordPress theme was an attribute that you were looking for in these themes.
Okay.
I've looked at, and also like some of these themes. I think I mentioned before, Neve I was looking at very closely, but I've been trying. I followed some tickets with them, and it turns out like I guess that company Hestia, they both make both Hestia and Neve, and one of those repos, the code, the pro version, I guess, was mixed in, so they made it a private repo. And my point is that some of these, while they're all open source, some of them are more like fake open source. And of the interactions that I've had in a few weeks with some of these theme builders, GeneratePress has arrived to the top of my list, as well as the WordPress theme 2024 and 2025, like the ones made by Atomic.
Okay. If you have that list handy, other than these two you just mentioned, and you wouldn't mind emailing it to me, then I can go through them and check if that works for us as well.
Yes.
Thank you. I think this is answers all. Oh, go ahead.
You asked me another question. I don't think that I answered. You mentioned, you asked if I had to do the migration again. At this point, what I've done is kind of like a snapshot. I've just been migrating what is like kind of a snapshot in time over to the site just so we can test it. Obviously, like, your other sites are live, so as soon as I migrate them, that snapshot is like old, it's like rotten. So the intention was just to migrate over something, test to see that it works generally, and then have you, like, I'm building a plan, like a idempotent set of commands that migrates over the snapshot, and then, so after we decide what I'm going to do, I guess we already decided what I'm going to do with OSC main and OBI. I'll make a double version, two migrations, one of the static site and one of the broken WordPress site that's not live. So I'm going to write up all of those plans. I'm going to go through the list end to end and test them for all of the sites, and then I'm going to hand it over to you two to do a verification. And I can't stress enough how important it is, this verification on your end, that you very thoroughly test the sites, because if there's any issues, it's just going to cost me a lot more time, downtime for you, and money for us to fix it later. So I'm going to go through the list, do the migration, do the snapshots, and then have you verify every single site on Hetzner 3, make sure it matches your expectations, that nothing is broken. Then I'll do the migrations one by one from least priority to the highest priority, the wiki at the end.
Okay. I mean, with the OBI and OSC, we know that it's going to be broken. We're just going to, as long as the content is there, we're going to try and fix the skin on top of it, right?
Yes, by migrating those, what I mean is I'm going to disable it on Hetzner 2, and I'm going to make the static site live.
Okay, that sounds good. I think that's a great plan. That answers the issues we had.
Michael, you
Oh,
can.
and with OBI, I don't know. It might be. We don't know yet what exactly what we're going to do with it. But it's just going to stay there. It doesn't matter. Like that, I don't do anything about it right now because we can stay with the static indefinitely until we're ready, right?
Yes, of course it should. Although it's possible that I guess code rots over time, and one of the problems is that you can't update it. So, like, if, for example, the standards change from JavaScript, Mozilla Firefox, Google Chrome, if those standards change the way that it renders, then it could break in the future. But it's about as good as you can get to an archive,
Just to remind right now, we made the Open Building Institute static, right?
That is the plan. Right now, it's not. So that's another thing. Is like once I make a static, you can't change it. So if there's anything that you really want to change, log into Hetzner 2 and make those changes now, because after it cuts over and it's turned off on Hetzner 2, you won't be able to change it.
Right. Okay.
Regarding the pattern, the generate press. Michael, you're looking at generate press as a good candidate.
Yeah, I was very happy with their interactions that I had with the support, and the fact that they're actually on GitHub and like you can make PRs, and they seem to be very open source collaborative.
Okay. You mentioned
and also it's extremely popular.
Okay. Was there a theme there that you were looking at?
No, they have like these starter sites. So some of these, there's a list of like 10 different themes that I was looking at. Some of them are free starter sites. Generate Press is one where you do have to pay in order to use the starter sites. I don't have a license. One of the nice things about Generate Press, I know you use Oshine over and over again. Generate Press, one license covers you for 500 sites, if I recall correctly. And it doesn't break. You lose the premium support if you don't pay for the second year, but you would have to pay in order to try the starter sites. You can demo them, but in order to actually try them and play around with them, you'd have to pay for one license. I think it's less than $200, and then you don't have to pay the second year unless you want to keep the support. And they say they have an FAQ on their site that says that if you don't pay subsequent years, your site will still work. You just lose the support.
Now the costs involved here are about $100 a year for this theme. Is that what we're looking at?
I think they have like 4 different tiers depending on what you need.
Yeah, looking at their pricing here. I'm just looking at the long-term support of this. What was it that the last time what's the theme we had on this current site, Katerina? Oshine?
Oshine.
Okay.
Well, the OSC is older than that. I don't remember what it is, but for the last 3 years we've been using Oshine.
Okay. Now, did something change here? Now it's an annual fee, where before it was a one-time fee? Is that what I'm saying?
Oshine was a one-time fee. You bought one license.
So, Michael, right now it's changing from one-time payment to annual payment?
No, again, with Generate Press, I haven't used it, but from what I read on the FAQ, it appears that it is a one-time fee. You would lose like premium support, but you'd still have, of course, community support. But it shouldn't break after the 1 year if you don't pay a second year.
I see. Yeah,
And if you need an update, would you get updates, or would you still get updates if you don't have the support?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's if there's additional plugins that require to be paid, I would have to check that. That maybe the answer is no, but the main theme itself there's one repo, it's open source, so I would expect that you would get updates for that.
Okay.
Regarding, so just to nail the issue of the former HTTPS, there's a whole bunch of HTTP links on the old forum posts. Is the only remedy for that simply to change it by hand?
You talking about for the forum website?
Sorry, for the blog. The blog. All the blog posts. The only way to change
There, I could do like a database. I believe I did this in the past, where I search through the entire database, find the letters HTTP : and replace them with HTTPS : That sort of automation could break things loose if we're linking to a website that doesn't have HTTPS. Seems unlikely today. But I'm curious, if you could email me a list of examples of that, I could investigate more.
So that's one point. Now, regarding any of the, just to get on the same page on the looks of the current site where there's little thumbnails or whatever, basically we're going to go through the whole website. Now Katerina is just going to reformat and redo everything. Is that the basic process? Because none of this is going to, just the way it looks, is all going to break, right?
Yeah.
So OBI used, I think the name of the company that makes Oshine is called Brand Exports or something, BE.
Yeah,
so
Exponents.
Exponents, right. Did you build OBI's website yourself, or did somebody else do that?
I did it.
Okay, so Katerina built it using a plugin from Brand Exponents called BE-Page-Builder, and when I emailed them a couple weeks ago, they said that is no longer functional. And they linked to a guide, which they published some years ago, on how to migrate away from that to whatever it is Page Builder they're using now. So that guide would be the source of truth of how to fix the site. I haven't reviewed it yet, but I think Katerina should take a look at it. Did you have a chance to look at that?
I haven't yet, no, because I thought it was going to be a can of worms, and right now the priority is the OSC website, so I just thought I would put OBI to the side for a bit.
We put OBI to the
Yeah, I think it... I was just saying, I think it is going to be a can of worms. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
Put it away to the side for now. Currently, is anything broken on it?
No. I mean, on the live site, no, but once it migrates, yes, it's a little bit broken, not terribly so.
Wait, you tell me upon making it static, some things are going to break?
No. Right, Michael?
No, that's correct. The static site, you just won't be able to make any changes to it. It should look the same. I haven't done it yet, and some of these static sites are very new, like FEF. Some of them I did have to do a little bit of polishing, so that's going to be... I still will need you to do a very thorough verification after I'm done with building the static site. I don't think it would be broken, but the main site, it actually took me a while to find, but there's some sort of galleries of parts that just don't show up on 80% of the pages.
Yeah. Yeah.
On the current Open Building Institute site?
The current site on Hefner 2 is fine. After we migrate, so we're migrating, and then there's going to be two different sites. So the three sites we're talking about. Hessner 2's website is fine. The two on Hessner 3, one of them is going to be broken. That's not going to be public. It's just going to be a sandbox where you can fix everything that you have to do some manual modifications on your computer even to access. The public site is going to be a static site, and that should be fine.
Yeah. So are we good to go on in terms of what are the next steps? One question I had in terms of the main site, as we do the migration, can I edit still right now? So, or what's the lockdown schedule?
sometime in the next few months, yeah, absolutely, you can edit now. And if there's anything you want to finish, that you want to be like permanently written in stone on the archived static site that ends up being the live site on Hetzner 2, sorry, on Hetzner 3, you should make those changes now, including like HTTP, HTTPS. If that's something that, if you're aware of anything that's broken on those sites, we should address those before the migration.
Michael, and assuming we already did everything we need to do with the community website, how long would it take for the migration to happen, particularly for the sandbox migration, so we can start working on the new site?
That one's easier if you don't, I mean, if you like promise not to change anything on Hetzner 2, then I can migrate it now. But then of course if you make changes in Hetzner 2, then they won't have migrated it. You'll have like a split brain fork, which you probably don't want. But if you really want, I could probably set that up like within a week if you really want to get started now. Otherwise, sticking to the plan, it would be possibly months down the road because I don't know, I have like the migration schedule as we agreed early kind of puts like the more important websites at the end and does and OBI is like one of the last ones on the list. But if you, yeah, so would you prefer to have the split brain like finalized cut over now and make that available for you sooner rather than later?
I think we don't have a choice, right, Marcin? We can't wait months. We need it right now, right?
Well, right now is like in the next week.
No, we can hear you.
In the next week, probably like within the next week, I'm planning on starting to make noise, and that would mean posting on a main website. Wiki, I think Wiki, we're all good, right? Is there any issues on what happens to the Wiki right now? We're editing the Wiki, everything's going to be preserved, and everything's going to get migrated to property, right? There's no issues on the Wiki, correct?
Yeah, the biggest issue I hit with the Wiki was the captcha system, but yeah, that's not going to affect the content.
Yeah. Michael, if we were, okay, so back to the sandbox, if we did this like within the 1 week time frame, I know that whatever changes Marcin makes now will not be reflected, that's fine. My only concern is those errors with the old blog posts from years ago, those would need to be corrected before you migrated, is that correct?
Are we talking about OBI?
Oh, I see. So OBI we're just putting aside for now.
OSC stuff. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So when you said you want, so the sandbox, you don't care about OBI. You're just talking about OSC for that.
Yes. Yeah. So yes, OBI we're not gonna touch for several months. Right now, the OAC is the one we need to work on immediately.
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, it's already live. I mean, I've just been playing around with it, but I think, for all practical purposes, if there hasn't been any changes to the OSC website, including not just changes from you, but changes from users, like if a user left a comment, since I migrated that site over, I don't know, probably, I don't know when that happened, maybe, but it was, let's just say October of last year, then you can use it now. Like you know how to edit the Etsy host file and log in. All I did was probably some trivial edit and change the theme over. So if you're comfortable with losing the content from the time that I migrated to the time now, you can check that. Then actually no further work needs to be done. You can already start playing in that sandbox today.
Okay. And what about that issue that Marcin was talking about with I don't understand what the issue is. There's an issue with the old blog posts, Marcin, that we would want corrected, because those blog posts are going to be part of the new website. So, you know, I'm saying like we don't want to be fixing things twice, I guess.
Agreed. So if that's the case,
I don't think that's what the problem is.
It would probably be better to sit on Hetzner 2 and then migrate.
Yeah.
So who I guess the question is, do you want me to fix that, or is somebody just going to log it? Because it can't be that many articles. Would you like to just log it? I mean, Marcin is the holder of the problem here. We have to figure out what the problem is. But do you want me to fix that, or do you two want to fix that?
Maybe possibly you can fix it. I'm going to show you exactly what the problem is. Basically, if you navigate to any of the very old posts, let's see. For example, if I go to the latest post, how do I even get to the very, very... What is this? Let me see. Oh, there's some weird... Okay.
Okay, well, while Marcin looks, so basically, we just basically agreed then, Michael, that the process will be to fix this, either you or us, Marcin will decide, and then once it's fixed, we'll do a new migration, then I have my sandbox ready.
Right.
Yeah, that works.
Let me I actually I've never seen this. So right now, and I haven't looked at this for some time now, but okay, so I'm looking at, I posted in 2024, predicting the release of the CD Home 4, and then the last post before that was in 22. Now I'm scrolling down just a few more, and going back to like May of 10 posts down, it gives me like, it says blog post left sidebar. That's not a blog post. It's not even continuing the history. And then when I click next, it just gives me post, 3 columns right sidebar, post, 3 columns left sidebar, post, 3 columns dual sidebars. So right now, there is no more blog on this website. Or at least
Yeah, I only see like 2 pages.
You see it?
At least that's under the category of uncategorized. There's only 2 pages.
There's uncategorized, and then there's like on the other one, which is home. Before, what happened is I would if I go to say the 2024 blog post, I keep scrolling down. It would keep no, I'm brain fart here. Once I click, okay, there's a weird artifact. I'll tell you more about it. I just noticed this, but basically in the listing of all the blog posts, it messes it up pretty quick. But of course, I can get the archives way back to So for example, just to give you an example, like right now, click on say August 2009 in the right sidebar, and say there's English comments pops up there. If there's going to be any link there, I'll show you later. But basically, any list, if I cross-link to another blog post, it does it without the S on the HTTPS. So hopefully, maybe you can just fix that quite readily with a batch type of edit. But I'll show you.
This is internal links, like within OSC to OSC.
Yeah. Which also means that
should be a problem because you have HTTP to HTTPS redirects.
Yeah, but it was an issue though. Like when I clicked on any article, whatever it wasn't working. Somehow it was messed up. That I had to basically track down the proper URL and change it within the blog post. You know what I mean? So a lot of things go to the wiki. They're all fine, but whenever there's an internal link to some other blog post of OSC, then it was that HTTPS problem didn't redirect properly. So I'll show you some examples. So let's just examples of break. I'll email you some examples and see where we go from there. It's kind of hard to me to track because I know I spent like a few hours correcting that, just going through blog posts and changing it manually. Like sometimes also some of the things might actually be corrected, maybe in a very very old post, but there's a bunch of stuff that isn't corrected. And which means that from any website, like for example, if we go to old entries on the wiki or any archive, any old websites in the ether, they always tend to go to HTTP instead of HTTPS. So, and those redirects aren't proper for some reason. So I'll show you more about that. I'll give you examples of both.
I think, yeah, I think that there is a different issue because I know you used to have, for example, blog.opensourceecology.org. It might be that instead of HTTP to HTTPS because that should be working.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay, we'll track this down and fix this as we migrate. Now, going forward though, like from here now, as we migrate this, how do we make sure none of this happens again, like any spurious stuff? Because how do we know it's not going to happen again? Do we have some proof for that? How are we proofing that?
Well, I think I mentioned before, when you link inside of WordPress, it's always better to link with slash. So if you're trying to link to an article titled www.opensourceecology.org/example-post, you just link to /example-post, and that will always make it go to the local website that you're on. As for permalinks from an external website, you just gotta commit to not changing the domain name.
Right. And we're not planning on changing any domain names. It will always be from here. It's opensourceecology.org, our main website for the WordPress site, and that never changes in the future, right? As far as I know. Mm-hmm. Right, and therefore it should transfer properly. The issue was there that what happened there? It was something like blog.opens. Like, explain that. Just remind me what happened there that we changed the domains.
I don't remember 100%, but you know, you also, like, back when you used Hetzner 1, you may have used, like, one server and not had subdomains, so you had, like, you added slash blog or slash wiki or something like this to separate sites. I really can't remember, but that's why we use subdomains now. I really can't tell until I see that error that you're talking about and try to understand what's going on.
Yeah. Okay. Next. So just in terms of the logistics, just to summarize, what happens if am I allowed to edit the current site now, or are we going into sandbox mode? What are we
you can edit the current site until. Okay, so for the sandbox, I only need two things to happen. One is for you and Michael to figure out that issue with the old blog and to fix it, and then for Michael to migrate it and to install a few themes for me. And then once I have my login, I can just go at it, and then you can change the current OSC website. I don't care. I don't mind picking that up later because it will be a minor change. It won't be like a big deal. But I will duplicate that, so you can.
Okay.
But after it migrates.
Okay. After it migrates, you basically take there'll be maybe a few blog posts, and then you just copy them over manually.
Yeah, I'll copy them. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's only if you want to be changing the old website right now. That's the only way we can do it, right?
Yeah. Right.
It would be like just a few posts.
So I think that I heard you say that you want to edit the website after we migrate. That's not going to be possible once we're on a static site, right? The migration is going to be shutting down the server, shutting down too.
But can you keep? Okay, can you keep? So this goes back to the issue that we were talking about, and now I realize that Marcin wants to edit the website, so your plan doesn't work, I guess. Can we keep the current live OSE and not migrate while I work on Hetzner 3? Can we keep Hetzner 2?
Okay, so you want to keep Hetzner 2 alive for OSC main and nothing else, is that correct?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, that's of course possible. You're going to be paying for that server to be online. I'm worried that you're going to end up paying for that server to be online indefinitely. But that's your decision.
Well, why indefinitely? I think there's a clear process here. So I can still edit Hetzner 2. We do that until we're ready to make the the hit over to Hetzner 3. The
Right.
question is, how much time
Which,
of all that prep work on Hetzner 3 needs to happen, and how do you time the two things? So that I'm not clear about that at all right now, so maybe we can just nail this completely. So what exactly is needed for Katerina to now create a placeholder for the new website? She can't. She has to have all the content, right? So,
yes.
right. So now she works, say, okay, let's do a case scenario. Right now, we give her all the content. She sets up the website on Hetzner 3, right? Now, there's going to be a couple of blog posts that I still want to write immediately for immediate publication next week or two, whatever, that we still want on Hetzner 2. Then we can take those separate blog posts and we just have to redo them. We have all the text, we have all the images, so that should not be the links are there. It should not be a big deal, right? So can we do? Is that what, Katerina? Is that what we're asking for?
Yeah. If you want, what Michael proposed sounded like a good plan because I didn't know that you wanted to add blog posts right now. But if you want to do that while we work on the new website, I don't see any other option.
And Michael, I think this addresses the point of keeping Hetzner 2 alive forever. I mean, as soon as we're ready to migrate, we shut down Hetzner 2
Yeah.
altogether. I mean, done. We're done with that.
Yeah.
Right?
You can do that. One thing that I think you haven't considered, because you're going to manually copy the contents of the blog posts every time over to the new site. Another thing that you can't so easily copy is user stuff. Like, things do change, you can, but users may leave comments, for example. There's more things that you won't be able to copy over so easily. It's just a little bit of a complicated situation that I would caution against. If you can, maybe you can use the wiki for those quote-unquote blog posts until the site is ready, to avoid a split brain situation.
Okay, so let's get back to some issues on the blog itself. Right now, the blog does not allow comments, so that would not be an issue, right?
Okay.
Go to my,
Yeah, that's awesome.
well, because that part, and that's something we actually do want to talk about. What happened to it? It's some time ago we were able to accept comments, and then at some point, I do not remember now, did we just shut them down because we were getting too much spam or whatever, or did it happen upon the migration? But I mean, we don't have comments right now. So, and is that also something we need to take a look at more carefully? Is that a best practice to do that? Because, Michael, we talked about before that we use embeddable threads as our universal commenting solution, which we can port between Wiki, we can port that between WordPress, anywhere else we're communicating, we can embed our conversations. And the main thing would be embed a conversation between Wiki, we're doing active development work, we have discussions right on the Wiki, kind of like what we use Discuss for. And then that same portable structure is embedded within our blog posts, right? So that's one more modular item we're introducing to our internet infrastructure, as opposed to relying on a specific comment platform on WordPress, which is not necessarily portable to anywhere else. So we want to.
Are you describing what you want or what you have?
We don't have that solution right now. The last we talked about was we were talking about the embeddability of discourse comments, right? Can you actually have an independent comment thread which functions now both for the commenting function on websites, but also as the generic forum for all kinds of other discussions? So we were discussing that. So that's like a big architecture discussion we need to nail as we move forward. Remember that discussion?
Yeah. Yes, yeah, forums are not in a good situation right now. Discourse is generally the best. I would not run Discourse on your server. I would get a separate server for that because it requires Docker. I had issues with that team. It's fake open source. I'm not a huge fan of Discourse. Another alternative is Flareum. I don't know if you looked at Flareum. They, I think, are one of the better options. And Nova Custom is an example of a open laptop manufacturer that has a Flareum forum, and they also have embedded. I mean, you're not going to be able to embed everywhere. I don't think you're going to be able to embed threaded discussions like you want on your wiki, but you will have a WordPress plugin that allows you to have the same threads. Really, the best long-term future-proof solution that I would recommend is something with ActivityPub. There's not really any forum software currently that supports ActivityPub except Lemmy, if you consider that a forum. I did enable. There is a plugin for WordPress that turns a WordPress site into ActivityPub, in which you can then embed in the comments section any messages made on platforms like Mastodon, for example, that use ActivityPub comments. So I haven't set that up, but I have already, that part of my plan is to enable that on all of your sites, and you can play with that if you'd like, but I think that's the best future-proof solution.
That was fantastic. So, for example, Mastodon tell me more about how Mastodon uses ActivityPub.
Well, it's everything. So Mastodon is like a Twitter alternative, except that it's federated. So anybody can run their own instance, and there are thousands of Mastodon instances. Think of them like Twitter servers. But if a founder turns into a fascist or starts banning a bunch of anti-fascists, then you just run your own instance. You don't have to worry about it. And then they're not called tweets, they're called toots in Mastodon. So all of the toots then you can view from across the entire Fediverse. Across the entire Fediverse, you can view the content, which is comments basically. It's a toot, a tweet, whatever. It's like a comment, right? And you can have actions on those, liking, retweeting, whatever. All of that is distributed through a protocol which has been around for I think 10 years now, called ActivityPub. And Meta recently launched actually their own service, the big corporation Meta, called Threads. And Threads is also on ActivityPub. Most media organizations, it's not Foursquare, what is it? There is a lot of different tools that are adopting ActivityPub. PeerTube, for example, is an alternative to YouTube. So any comments left on PeerTube videos are also replicated. So you can view PeerTube comments from Mastodon and interact with them, also on Lemmy, which is a Reddit alternative. So all these different platforms that are usually pretty isolated, now they can all communicate by adopting ActivityPub.
Yeah, that's what we like. Now, does ActivityPub allow you to embed that comment, say in HTML?
Yeah, absolutely. So what the WordPress plugin that I have enabled on your sites, all your WordPress sites for ActivityPub on Hetzner 3 does is it allows people who have commented on their own platform, so they don't even necessarily have to log into your WordPress site and leave a comment. They leave a comment on their own instance, and then it would appear in that thread. Yeah.
That sounds like the most promising of what I've heard so far. Meaning that you don't click on it and then you get taken to another platform. You actually comment right in that embed, right?
Right, so the way Federation works is the data gets copied between servers. So your server would subscribe and download all of the comments made on other servers. And any comments made on your platform will be picked up by other platforms. That's what Federation means. It just gets copied around.
Okay. Do you have any issues regarding long-term stability or evil mongering at ActivityPub? Are they good?
No, that's a good question. Evil, especially. Long-term, no, I think it's been around for a very long time. It's been adopted by huge corporations. I think it's definitely the solution. It's not since Threads adopted it years ago, I don't think this is a niche thing. But evil is very valid. There has been, if you allow anybody to run their own instance and you federate with them, you could potentially, have comments that have content on your site popping up that are not very nice. Spam being the least of your issues. So moderation is a huge issue with ActivityPub. I'll say that.
That's the ultimate question. Yeah.
I don't think it's a blocker, just like with email, right? Email isn't actually a federated platform, right? You run your own email server, Gmail, Yahoo, AOL, all these different servers are separate, yet they still can communicate. Email is like the best example of a federated platform. And you have, email is also one of the hardest platforms to run because of spam, because it's federated. But a solution to that is you have organizations that monitor for spam, and they maintain a list of servers to blacklist. And the same thing has popped up in the ActivityPub federated universe space.
Okay. Yeah, so I think for now, we assume there is no comments on the WordPress because that's just not scalable right now in terms of moderation. Until we get the capacity to moderate properly, no go. We would want to go to a basically an embedded third-party thing like ActivityPub. So I think that leaves the issue of comments in the forum, in the website, in blog posts. That's a non-issue. Therefore, I'm just going back to the question of can we still edit on the old wiki and have minimal problems to actually update a few posts on the new website as Katrina gets busy with the new website.
Not wiki, old website.
Just old website, not wiki.
Is that a question for me?
Yeah. Is there any issue with that? You're advising against that, but I'm saying that because we have the comments disabled.
Comments you can do that. I mean, I would feel much better. I would rather just migrate and kill that server, and just have less things to maintain. But if that's what you want, yeah, we can do it. And certainly the comments eliminates a lot of my worry about having to manually migrate content besides just the new post that you're creating. Yes.
You're maintaining more things. Is there any additional maintenance required by still editing the Hetzner 2 website?
Well, CentOS 7 is pretty dead. It's not possible to get updates anymore. It's pretty unstable. You have to reboot that server every now and then. At some point it's just going to die completely.
Right.
So it is
what you're saying, you got a GTFO as soon as possible, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do that. Let's get going, cracking on the new website, Hetzner 3. We'll have to do, in the worst case, like if something messes up on a WordPress site, forget it. I'll just go to the wiki and publish with that. Now
Michael,
there's no issues
can you?
check, correct?
I couldn't hear either of you. Sorry.
Listserv, our PHP list, we're still good on that, right? There's no issues there.
Yeah, that's a good question. I migrated that. There was some issues, but I ironed out. There's only so much verification that I can do. I was able to email a test email, but I'm not going to do a test where I email 300 people from that server. So it's not an easy thing to verify for sure. I think we just have to migrate and then you do a test, like a proper message to everybody. But as far as I can tell, with the limited ability, that one did migrate fairly easily.
Right. And can I use that? Let's see. But can I use that right now still or no? No, because.
So yeah, I'm using the wrong term. I should be using a difference between migration and snapshot. And what I mean is I migrated a snapshot. So no, don't use anything on Hetzner 3 yet, because again, everything that's on Hetzner 3 right now, we're going to delete it. It's just kind of like a sandbox where we can test things. When I do the actual migration, I'm going to be shutting it down on Hetzner 2 and then cutting the DNS over. And then, so for now, use Hetzner 2. When the actual migration happens, and you'll be I'm not going to do that without giving you plenty of notice. That's going to be scheduled and very proper migration. Then you will not. You won't even notice a difference. The interface may change a bit through the upgrade, but generally speaking, you just type in phplist.opensourceecology.org, you log in as normal, and then you send a list newsletter.
Yep, that sounds good. Okay. What else we got?
Sorry, Catherine, what did you say?
Oh, no. I was going to say something, but hopefully that just adds much complication. When you said that the OAC website could break at any moment, if it breaks, we won't be able to export the snapshot because it'll just be a broken website, right? So that's a concern.
I don't think it's going to break in a way that we won't be able to get the data out. It's just going to break in a way that, we had this issue with Apache just before I started the migration. I think the reason we looked at that was because we had an issue with Apache child workers that were spawning until the server died. So the more likely way it's going to break is that users won't be able to access it, but we as administrators should still be able to access and extract the data, if not in a more painful way. I do want to mention, though, that I haven't told Marcin this, but regarding that issue, one of the benefits of us changing to Hetzner 3, a lot of the software is upgraded. That server is 10 years old, the software, it's end of life. So we switched to PHP-FPM from mod PHP, which means that it's more thread safe, and we changed the NPM child process from, I forgot the name of it, but there's two different types, and we changed it to one that is much more performant. So you should see a lot of performance increases, capacity, because of this migration as well.
Okay.
For the future of the website that we're migrating, what's the expected time before we have to revisit the issue, i.e. change themes and so forth? Are we saying this is like a long-term solution, or this thing will just disappear in 5-10 years as well? Pretty much redo it because of status issues and things like that. What's the opinion on that? How long is this change?
Are you talking about? Yes, I think we're conflating a few. So the big thing that we're doing is migrating from CentOS, because that was a product that was a fork. Well, it was like a copy of Red Hat, and Red Hat stopped allowing CentOS to exist. So the biggest issue, the reason why we're doing this huge project right now, is to get away from them. When we're choosing Debian, I don't think Debian's going to disappear. They're not run by a corporation. It's a bunch of volunteers. They've been around for a while. It's one of the most popular operating systems. Right now we have Debian 10. When Debian 11 comes out, we have Debian 12 right now. When Debian 13 comes out, we change a few things and we download it. It takes a few hours to upgrade. If Debian completely is abandoned, we'll be in the same boat again, but I do not think that's likely. I can't predict the future. Then the separate issue is the theme. So that depends on what you choose. Oshine doesn't have a ton of users. GeneratePress has over 1 million active installation, and they have, I think, something to look at for sustainability, long-term, future-proof theme is, do they have a way to monetize in a way that's not bad for us, but also shows that they're going to stick around for a while. And I do like how GeneratePress does, we can't play around because we can't get the site tests without paying, but that's a little annoying, but it seems like it's a sustainable business model for them. So if we choose a good theme, I would hope it would be around for 10 plus years, but if we choose a theme that only has a few thousand installations, we could end up in this situation in a couple years again.
Okay. So I think that's an adequate would work for us if we choose that, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so
I'd say you have it's not just that one.
Sorry, say it again.
I'd say you have something like 10 or 15 different themes to choose from. It's not that one, but I'll send an email and we can look into decide which one we want to use.
Okay. So our next steps.
Thank you. I think we have two next steps, if I understand it correctly. One will be for you guys to figure out that issue with the blog, because we can't migrate until that's done. So that's high priority. And then I guess the other one, if you could send me that list of WordPress themes, and I can look through and then we'll know, we'll make a decision as to which ones to install after the migration or as part of the migration. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I also have two leads from Marcin. Well, I guess Katerina as well. I sent some emails. I know that you all have been very busy, but I want to make sure that I don't increase the bus factor on myself. I want you to be able to survive with the server after me, and I believe I'm the only person with SSH access to the server at this point. Did you see the email that I sent to verify SSH access?
If you could do it for both of us, his username too, right? Can you do that for both of us, Marcin?
So Michael, on that thing, I haven't logged in for a couple of years, and I probably could do what you asked me. But I have not looked at that email. If you what do we do about that then? So maybe what I do is I give it an honest attempt you're basically asking me to verify my SSH access?
Yes.
Okay. I can go through that process and let you know if I can succeed at it, and if not, let's communicate and solve that ASAP. Does that sound good? So maybe I can get to that. I can get the answer back to you by tomorrow. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine. I also need to get Tom because Tom has root access. The other thing I need from you is DreamHost. So OBI is not, you have like a bunch of different providers with your DNS, and it turns out that OBI, and I need to be able to edit DNS for the migration, OBI is on DreamHost. DreamHost changed their login process. It sends you an OTP at the time of login to your email. So I created for us a email something at opensourceecology.org, and Marcin, I just need you to log into DreamHost and to change the email address to that shared email.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this is not for Marcin, it's for me. Marcin doesn't have, it's my DreamHost account, he won't be able to log in. I'll do it, send me that email.
Okay, then I think I'm going to kick you off though. So, do you get the emails from the ops list? Like from Let's Encrypt has been sending us a bunch of emails. Do you get those? Okay, so I need to add you to that list. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to log in anymore.
Okay.
Is that okay for you, Marcin? Because that means that she'll be able to basically log into all of other ops accounts. Okay. And I should also get verbal confirmation that you're okay with me purchasing an IPv4 address for Hetzner 3. That's going to cost you €5 up front, sorry, €5 up front and €2 per month. Should I do that?
Yeah, sounds good. You said we don't have an option on that, do we? Any other option?
That's the easiest option. You have like 256 or something IPv6 addresses, but Factory Farm is not set up for that. You probably, your fiber line probably has it, but your router probably has some issues, or your configuration of your laptop. But the easiest thing is definitely just to get another IPv4 address.
That's for the web.
The second IP address is what's going to allow you to create a second website that's not publicly accessible for OBI and OSE main, the sandbox.
No, that's a cost we're accepting forever now, or that's just until we migrate?
No, that is until you finish with modernizing, fixing the problems with OSE main and OBI, and once I migrate those two over, we cut that cost.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine.
I think actually the DreamHost login was Marcin at opensourceecology.org. Are we sure we're talking about the same account, Katerina, or do you have access to this email?
No.
Well, OBI is I bought OBI, so it's possible that he has a DreamHost account, but OBI is on my account because I bought it personally.
I have a DreamHost account which we had back from our original website, and because we're a nonprofit, we get a free account from them. So that's OSE's. Katrina, I think you have a separate one, right?
But OBI is not on that account. Yes, I have a personal account that I've had for many years since before OAC.
Okay, so that's a different. Do you want to keep those separate, or could we consolidate?
I have lots of other websites in there that have nothing to do with OAC. I think for now it would be better to keep it separate. And then I even want to ask you, like, because I have all of this other stuff over there, I have other domains and things like that. If after we migrate, I can go back to using my old email. Otherwise, I won't get, like, I get all my bills and stuff like on my normal email from DreamHost. Like I'm paying them for hosting and things like that. So I would need to get it to come back to my email rather than the ops.
Okay, well then I'll create a separate email just for OPI's DreamHost, which I can use temporarily because I will need access to that just to do the migration.
Okay, yeah. So no problem. Yeah, I'm just worried about, like, if I'm not getting bills or anything like that from them, and I'm not getting information that I need from them. That would be my concern.
Okay.
The thing that we can, I mean, let's focus on OAC right now. That's a priority. But then, if it, we can just discuss this really quickly. I think that what you were suggesting is that for the house selling website, that we use the store.oac.org. And I think we're both fine with using that actual bucket, but I think we would need to rename it something like seh.opensourceecology.org. Like, is that possible, or is that like a new install? Like, what's involved in that?
Yeah, it's absolutely possible. It's a couple hours of work.
Okay. So yeah, we're gonna focus on OAC right now, and then we'll discuss that on the next meeting, how to go about it, I guess.
Let's see, so Katrina, you're putting away the store.opensource.org as far as the house website. We're saving that for later, or are we actually trying to hit that now? No, we're saving that for later. Or can you?
I think we can put it temporarily inside the opensourceecology.org, but I don't think we can launch the house website without our main website being proper. You see what I'm saying? From a marketing point of view, do you agree, Michael, that like the mother website needs to come first?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Oh, okay. So there's the organization website, like Open Source Ecology, right? And that is the organization. And now we're talking about a sub-product website, which is going to be the seh.opensourceecology.org. And we're talking about like the order of that rollout. Marcin, do you have it? That before? I mean, probably need to work on one at a time. Otherwise, we'll get to tough.
Yeah, we need the marketing website, but no, we need to do it in proper order. The first order of business is get the main website up to speed.
Okay.
So we gotta just.
I would agree with that.
Okay, so we're on the same page.
We'll hit that. So just one after another. So yeah, forget about
Okay.
that website. We'll do it.
I mean, not forget, we're going to do it, but it'll be sequential, like not at the same time. Yeah.
Okay, I did have another item. I don't know if you're aware, so you have a staging server, you have a dev and a staging server. The reason I set this up was back, I think, when you asked me to build a discourse website for you, and because of all of the oddities that Docker, the requirements for discourse brings, I didn't want to possibly break your production server by playing around with discourse. So I bought a dev server, and on that dev server was a staging server, which is just a place where you can play around without breaking prod. I looked at that, and I realized that server also is, of course, CentOS 7, and it's not really going to work so well as a copy of your production server if it's a different operating system. So I have two options. I could do everything I'm doing for this site and rebuild that dev server with a staging server on it in Debian, or we can just kill it.
I would say kill it, and then let's look more into the federated way to do the comments, because we need to integrate our forum solution with that. Just for long term, that's kind of where I'm at right now. Does that make sense, or?
Not really. The server has nothing to do with discourse. It's just that we created it for that. Anytime you want to play around with something, whether it's Lemmy, for example, which is like a federated activity pub powered forum software, or it's discourse, or it's Flarum, you're probably going to want a dev or a staging server just to not break prod. It's a good idea for an organization to have that, but I can still kill it. But it's just remember, it's not necessarily related to discourse. It's really just a useful copy of your server.
What's the word you're using?
Prod production. So usually you have a production server, which is where all of your users go, live traffic, and then if you have a developer server where the developers are writing code, and then you have a staging server in between those two where you push the code to for doing tests, and then once they're confirmed on staging, you push them to prod.
Regarding and this was regarding development or staging? Development, right? You mentioned about discourse regarding dev, right?
Yeah, well, so to save, so traditionally what an org does is they have a prod server, and then they double that cost by having another exact copy of that server that they call staging. But to save OSC money, what I did was I created a very, very cheap, underpowered Hetzner Cloud server, as opposed to getting a second dedicated server that's an exact replica of Prod. I called that the dev server, and then I ran a container inside of that, which I called the staging server. So it's not like a proper setup, but it achieves the same end where we can play around with a copy of Prod's data without breaking Prod itself at a very cheap level.
Now, this was when we were considering all these upgrades. First of all, what's the cost of that dev server for us right now?
I'd have to check, but it's probably €5 a month. It's very cheap.
And we should, is that something that you can cut off at will, or you'd just rather just keep it for now? Because I would just say let's sequentially worry about all the website stuff first and the marketing website. The forum stuff would be, I would see that next in sequence. So do we want to just kill that process for now, or just keep the dev server alive, or what would you suggest?
Well, when you want me to do some sort of, or if me or somebody else, you want them to look at adding something to your software stack, like Discourse or equivalent, then they're going to need a staging server. Right now, it's not needed. It hasn't been touched for a long time. So I guess what I would recommend is that we create good backups of it. We store the backups on Hetzner 3, and then we just shut it down and kill it.
Yeah, I would say that.
Okay. Okay, I think that answers everything that I need from you. Would you like me to go through again what my next steps are?
Let's just touch base real quick. What's on our plates next? For me, it's to fix the read the HTTPs, get communicate with you what needs to be there. I gotta verify my SSH access. And do I still need to do the thing on
Well, the thing
on DreamHost, or that's you guys saw that?
Yeah, I don't think so. All I could see was that it's a DreamHost account. I couldn't see which account it was on. So yeah, I'll work with Katarina and hopefully we can figure it out. If not, I'll loop you in.
Okay. And on Katarina's plate, next is, or which, Michael, what your responsibility is with respect to it?
Well, Katarina, I guess I need you to, I need to create an email address for you temporarily for the DreamHost account. I'll need you to change that. I'll send you an email about that. I also would like you to confirm SSH access to the new Hetzner 3 server.
I have no idea how to do that.
I'll send you an email. It's just a command, and if you don't have your SSH keys on your machine, if you didn't migrate them from 10 years ago whenever you last logged in, which possibly it's not there anymore, then I'll have you generate new keys, and I'll add them to the server.
Okay. Okay, well, just, yeah, if you could walk me through it, but I read your email, I was like, I did not understand the line of that. Sorry.
Well, I can't remember if I copied it. I think I sent you a command that I needed you to copy and paste, and you did it with the IPv6, right? So it should be just a matter of copying and pasting it when I send you the command into your terminal, and then you just copy and paste the output back to me, and we can figure that out.
Okay. I guess I didn't realize that there was something happening that I needed to paste on the terminal. Copy and paste. I can handle that. Okay.
Okay. And then for me, okay, so I guess the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create static sites of OBI, OSE main, copy them to Hetzner 3, make sure that whole process works. Then I'm going to go to every single one of the websites and repeat my snapshot creation method, make sure that it works. And I'm going to send an email to you asking you to go through every single website at Hetzner 3 after changing the host file and verifying it. Please, and I'll stress this again in the email, I can't stress this enough, take your time and be as thorough, check every single page, because it's much better for us to detect any problems before we migrate than after. And then after maybe it'll take you some weeks. I really want you to take your time on that. Then I will schedule one by one each of those websites migrations. I'll pick a date, a time, probably like 10 a.m. or something. I'll just go through it. It'll take somewhere between 30 minutes to 6 hours. The wiki is going to take an extremely long time. But one by one, I'll cut over the sites. Hetzner 2 will no longer be used for all of those sites when that migration is complete for each site, with the exception of OSE main. I have on my list that I was going to shut down Hetzner 2, but I guess that's not going to happen. But hopefully then your work cuts in and you let me know when you finish OBI and OSE main's sandbox, and then we can kill Hetzner 2 completely.
How long will it take to migrate?
So the wiki, you have a very old version of MediaWiki, so we cannot upgrade from the version that you have to the version that is current. We have to do two separate migrations, and I think we have to run each script 2 or 3 times with some bug fixes in the middle. I think it takes an hour and a half for each one. The best case would be something like 3 hours, but then also that's just the upgrade process. That doesn't include copying the data, which is very large, from Hetzner 2 to Hetzner 3. That could be a couple hours each. So I don't know. I would expect 6 hours downtime minimum.
Okay, and now as far as the sandbox of the OSE main, Michael, you're still waiting for me to resolve that the HTTPS stuff with you, right?
Yes.
Before you do that, right?
Yeah, I'm not convinced that's the problem, but I need you to identify all of the pages and be specific in what needs to change, and then we can work on it, and then when you give me the go-ahead, then we can copy that over.
I'll get that to you tomorrow. So I'll do the SSH stuff and that because I have to. It's basically going to be a lot of pages. I have to go through a lot of pages to make sure that I call everything.
Sure. And are we going to Poland soon?
Around May.
Oh, May. Wow. Okay.
That'll be in and out. I'm not planning on staying for too long.
Okay. I don't think I have anything else on the agenda.
So we're good for now?
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much for your time.
And you're literally in the jungle, right?
Thank you, Michael.
I'm in the mountains right now. I was in the jungle. I don't really want to go into too much detail on a live recorded call, but yes, currently I'm next to the jungle. No.
We'll see you soon. We'll welcome you back into America once we fix it once and for all with open source technology.
Good luck.
Okay, thanks, Mike. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Michael. Talk to you soon. Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.